Hello, welcome to Painting with Jasmine Rempel Art. I'm Jasmine and today I want to make a Valentine card for my husband. My husband and I are rock lovers, so I'm going to put rocks in the inside of heart. So I'm going to start. I've already sketched out my heart, but I'll put it a little darker there for you to see. And my plan is that this heart will be completely made up of rocks. And then inside the card I will probably write something like, I'm glad I picked you, or I'm glad you picked me. Whenever we go to the ocean, we're always picking rocks. So I'm going to have a rough heart-shaped one there, and another heart-shaped one there indicating him and me. One here. I'm only going to, at this point, sketch in a few of the pebbles that I'll have, and the rest of them I'll add as we go along. I am sketching much darker than I typically would, and I'm doing that for your benefit. Normally when I do my own card, I would be sketching a lot lighter, and just so that I could see guidelines. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wet this entire heart, and then I'm going to begin putting in swatches of color, and that will be my first layer of color. This is a Strathmore watercolor card. It's 140 pound cold pressed. I buy sets of Strathmore and I make lots of cards with them. I have it taped down with painter's tape onto a little board, and I've got a variety of brushes here ready to use. I've got 3 sizes of round brush, 8, 6, and a 4, and I've got a rigger brush as well. These are Silver Black Velvet series. Any round brush that you have will do. I'm going to be using Daniel Smith watercolor paint, and again, any paint you have will do if you're joining me on this tutorial. All right, so without further ado, I'm actually going to reach for a larger brush because I'm going to fill in a large shape here. So this is a number 12 round, same brand. All right, so I am applying my water, and as I mentioned, it's going to be over in the midst of the entire heart shape, even over my sketched out rocks. And the way I see how much water I have on is by tilting my board, and I can see the sheen of light where the water has gone, and that helps me know where I've painted and where I have yet to add paint on the water. I want just enough water that I am saturating the paper, but not so much that I am having it run out of my heart shape, and not so much that I'm creating big pools of water. As you practice with watercolor and paper, you'll get the hang of how much water for wet on wet. I'm creating basically a wet heart shape right now, and tilting that board, you can see that sheen, and it's just within that heart, and that's what I want. That way, when I add pigment, it's going to run and bleed nicely within this heart shape, and the different pigments that I add will blend together. You notice I'm going over some of the same areas I did before, and that is because watercolor paper can dry fairly quickly. All right, I'm ready to add some colors. So I'm going to reach in, and I'm going into Quinacridone Rose, and I'm going to start with this as a pure color, and I'm just going to tap that in right around in various areas, particularly in this area here, because this is where I want my focal point to be on those two hearts. Now I've cleaned my brush. I'm still using the large brush at this point. This is a number 12. I'm still comfortable with using it. If you feel like your brush is too big, just move to a smaller one. This is a bit of French Ultramarine, and I'm just gonna add that color as well in different areas in this heart shape. And now I'm reaching into, I'm going to clean that off, and I am wanting a smaller brush, so I'm going to be grabbing now my number 8. And I'm going into Hansa Yellow, and I'll just add a few areas where there's a bit of yellow, and that will add a little few bright spots. Okay, let's go into the Phthalo Blue and put in some of that, just here and there. Basically, I'm just going around the heart, applying color here and there. Not with any particular rhyme or reason, just putting color in. All right, now I'm going to go into my blue again, and I just want a little bit right here, and that's creating a purple. So I've got my Quinacridone Rose and my French Ultramarine, and I'm putting those together right in here, mixing them, and you can see that's a nice little purple color. I love that. Okay, my paper is beginning to dry, so I can only do so much more before, once it starts drying, I really want to stop what I'm up to, because otherwise I'll get what's called cauliflowers or blooms, the wet paint on hitting dry paint. I don't want that. So I'm going to be finished now applying color. You can see I have it all through this heart, and I'm tilting my board so that some of this color can just run a bit. Good. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach into my salt. This is Kosher salt. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on this side of the heart and a little bit over here. Now, I'm going to need to wait for this to dry, and while I'm waiting for it to dry, I'm grabbing my small brush. This is my number 4, and I'm reaching into this Phthalo Blue. I'm just going to add a little bit of Jayne's gray to this blue. Just enough to create basically a dark blue color. And I've got my brush and I've got some on it, and I'm just going to tap. I only want to tap in the heart. I don't want to tap color on the outside of the heart, and I did there, so I'll just put my hand to protect that. There we go. A few little taps of that blue-gray. And because I got some out here, I am getting a clean brush right now. It just has water on it, and I'm just going to rub that a bit, and then I'm going to get some paper towel, and normally I'd get tissue, but I'm out of it beside me, so paper towel, and that will just pick that up, and I'll do the same with this little tap here. So basically the water is acting like an eraser, and the paper towel is picking up that pigment. Okay, I'm going to turn this off while it dries, and then we'll start our next layer. Well, that is nice and dry. Here I have a rubber cement square. I'm just going to use it to rub off the kosher salt. And that's great. That added a little bit of texture. I'll zoom you in so you can see that a little bit better. There's a bit of a sparkle there and a sparkle there. All right, so now it's time to draw a few more rocks and a few more rocks. All right, so let's have one right about here. And let's actually, do you know what? I am not going to draw my rocks yet. I was a little excited. What I'm going to do is paint all around these rocks first, and then I will add a few more rocks in there. So, all right, so exactly what we did before, we are going to do again. I'm going to wet. I just feel like I really want another one here. So, sorry, I was just thinking about it while I was chatting with you. All right, and maybe one right here as well. All right, so we are going to wet around these rocks this time. And it'll be a little trickier now wetting around the rocks because we're going to need to use the tip of our brush, so we're not going into the rock. And what we're going to do is apply a bit more color in there. So this time with my color, I want to have a bit of that Payne's gray in it as well. So I've just added some Payne's gray to that purple, and I'm just going to be tapping in that purple / Payne's gray color in some areas. And right here it's wet on wet, but it is not going to be wet on wet everywhere because some of my heart is dry. Now I already had that blue with Payne's gray color here, and so I can reach into that, but I'm going to add a little more French ultramarine to it, and now it's just a nice blue, and I'll begin to use that over here. Good. Super. Now this is wet on dry in this area right here. I had no water on my paper, and that's just fine. And I'm just bringing in that blue. Here was wet, and I'm bringing in the blue to the wet area so it'll blend in with that purple, and here it's dry. For the rest of this, I'm going to paint wet on dry. All right, so I have some more of that purple. I'm going to mix them up. Here's the Quinacridone Gold, and here, Quinacridone Rose, and here is a French Ultra. That always makes a really nice purple, and I'm going to add a little Jayne's Gray to it. I said Payne's Gray earlier. In this set, I have the gray is called Jayne's Gray. Similar to Payne's Gray, so if you're using Payne's Gray, it's not a pain. It'll work just fine. All right, just darkening up the background as I'm going along painting around these rocks. There's a bit of a hard edge there. I'm going to move into it with some wet paint. Good. And you can see what's happening is that those rocks that we initially drew are now lighter than the background color, so they are beginning to pop out, which is what we want. The rest of it I'm filling in with a blue purple with a bit of the gray in it. You had seen how I mixed in a bit of gray into that blue and that purple. It doesn't matter what blue you used. I mixed it into I actually had a mixture of blue here from the last time. There was some Phthalo Blue and there was some Ultra Blue. Okay. grab some more purple. I've got some remaining and bringing that around. I'm going to add a really nice contrast to the yellow in this rock. And I'm just painting in right now all the negative areas. Negative area is the area around the positive shapes, and the positive shapes for me are these little rocks. There. That's good. Nice. Okay. Now, this time I'm going to grab this. It's a cut up Starbucks card. And where it's still wet, I'm just actually going to drag that along in a few areas just to add a bit of texture. I'll zoom in for you. Just a little bit. Scratching up a little bit of the surface where it's wet. Lifting off some of the paint. And it looks like I was able to get some texture marks right in this area right here. I like that. Let's zoom out again. Wow. These ones are really standing out, which I wanted. All right, now, ultimately, what we want is for this to dry again, and then we will go on and draw some rocks. Because it's not quite dry yet, I'm going to take the time to do a few splatters with the Payne's Gray and the blue mixture. I'm getting it quite a bit more Jayne's Gray than blue here, and I'm filling my brush with it. And what I'm going to do is just tap it into a few spots really close to the paper, as I don't want the splatters going off the paper. I'm just adding these because it will end up being some nice texture on some of the rocks that are coming along. Okay, I'm going to blow dry this. That's dry and we're ready to go. I'm going to sketch in a few more rocks. I'll zoom in for you to see the sketching process. Of course, I'm putting my rocks here, but they're having shapes that I'm designing, but you can be putting your rocks wherever you like. These are the ones we put here now are becoming our positive shapes, and we're going to end up painting a darker paint around them. Have one right here. Do one right here. Here. All right. I really like this texture, so I'm wanting to do another to save another bit of that texture right there. And let's make another one. There we go. All right, and now it's time to paint around these rocks. First, what I'm going to do is mix up some more color. All right, so here is that Quinacridone Rose. Let's be using this. And we're going to take some of that Jayne's Gray. I'm using my number 8 brush for this process. And put that Jayne's Gray right into the rose. And we'll have some pink grays to use this time round. There we go. And this was our blue mixture, so I'm actually going to add some Quinacridone Rose into here so that we'll turn it into a purple. And I'm going to take some French Ultra go. Wow, that's a beautiful purple. And some Jayne's gray again. I'm running out of that gray. I've been painting a lot of rocks. And I'm wanting just a blue. So let's use the French Ultra over here. And that Jayne's gray. That's a beautiful dark blue. And here's that yellow, the Hansa. So let's create a bit of a gray yellow as well. Yellow with the Jayne's. It ends up looking like a really warm gray color. I think I'll put in even more gray in there. Okay, there we go. All right, it's time to paint around the rocks. I'm going to get a smaller brush for that. Okay, so I've got here my number 6 and my number 4. I'll start out with the number 6 and see if I need to switch to the number 4. Okay, I'm going to paint wet on dry. In other words, I'm not putting water down on the paper first. I'm just going to put the wet paint on the paper. There's that nice purple color. And I'm going to reach into the blue and add it. This purple blue area here. Clean off my brush and reach into this dark purple color. Carry it on down. And I'm going to sprinkle a little salt while it's still wet. Reaching into this yellow. Looks like a nice green actually with that Jayne's gray in it. There's got to be some blue in Jayne's gray for this yellow to combine with it and turn greenish. Right in here. I didn't actually draw a rock there, but right there, but I'm imagining that there is one now, and I'm going to be creating it. I'm going into the blue. I didn't clean my brush. The colors will blend together. And just working my way around. I think what I'm going to do here is add some saran wrap right in this area right here while it's wet. And the reason I'm going to is it just makes this gorgeous textured effect. So I've got some saran wrap here. I'm going to crinkle it up a bit and put that right on top here. And just pressing it down a little bit. And I just want it to sit there. So I'll put this on top so it sits. I'll head back into that nice blue-gray mixture and keep going right in this area. I'm going to just draw out my own rock here. save some of that space, and imagine there's another rock right here. I didn't have it drawn on in pencil, but I am working in the negative space right now and designing a positive shape that's going to emerge out of it. You can see it coming along there. Grabbing a different color just for interest. And right now I'm drawing with the tip of my brush. I'm obsessed about painting rocks lately. I just did a video on balancing stones. I really enjoyed painting that, so if you want to check that out, hopefully you would enjoy that as well. If you're a rock fanatic like me, I'm going to zoom in for a little while for you. Again, I did not have a rock drawn here, but I'm going to create one coming out of that blue by painting the negative shape and leaving that there. Okay, I feel like I'd like a little more of this quinacridone gold and gray mixture mixed up. So I'm going to do that right now. Oh, you can't see me doing that. Sorry. I am now mixing Quinacridone Rose with some Payne's Gray, and I'm going to bring that into this area. You can see there the mixture. It's got a pinkish tone to it. Let's make a rock right here. Don't feel you have to. There's no pressure for you. If you're most comfortable drawing your rocks on, then do that. Let's reach into the blue to change up the color, add some interest, and then I'm going to put some more salt here. Right here. Oops, sorry, I bumped my camera. Give you a little ride. Okay, coming around. And now we're into the middle area. And this is where I had all those beautiful textures from my Starbucks cards. I'm a teacher, and I have some students that gave me some cards, gift cards this year, and so when I'm finished using them, I turn them into art supplies. Let's actually lift this off now and have a look. Wonderful. And let's put some right here as well. And getting close to being done. Oops, it's moving. I'm going to lift that off right now. I'm in some very small spaces. I feel like I could have put this on time lapse, but perhaps you're still with me watching this process, and hopefully you are enjoying it. I'd love to hear from you if you are still with me. You can leave a comment on this video. Love to hear what you think. I'd especially love to hear if you gave it a go. This one is not necessarily easy for beginners. But it's still worth a try. If you have a sketchbook, you could give it a try. Okay, there we go. I think I've got it. I think I've got all my areas The one thing I don't like is that that ran. So I'm going to do my best to clean it up. I have a clean brush. It's wet, and I'm just going to rub that wet brush over this pigment, and then I'm just going to put my paper towel here, and you can see that picked up a lot of that bleed, a lot of that color that ran into my rock shape. I didn't want it to. There we go. All right, this is looking good. I think I'm going to do a little bit of lifting of some color. So I've got a number 2 brush, and it's clean, damp, and I'm just going to run it along here. And what you're going to see is some white area or lighter area beginning to show. I'm doing this because whatever rock I end up having here is going to end up showing these lines, and it will add interest to them. So I will do the same thing over here. Just running this brush along, lifting off some of that color. Whoa, that really lifted some off, and that's okay. I'm good with that. I'll use it. Do the same down here. Okay, this needs to dry. Here's my rubber cement square. Just going rubbing off my kosher salt. There we go. All right, now to draw my next rocks, because this is so dark, you are not going to be able to see my pencil. So I've decided to use some white gouache to draw. So I have here a rigger brush or a liner brush, and I'm just getting my white gouache wet, and I'll use this to mark off my next positive shapes. So let's do one right here. And bring it around to the edge. Let's do another, I'll put right here. I think we'll fill in this area. That'd be a nice dark green rock right there, kind of a jade look to it. Here's a big blue one. If I was walking on the beach, I'd be picking up that rock for sure. Move into another, just in this area. Good. Probably one sticking out right there, I can see. I feel like I'm going to zoom in for you so you can see that better. There we go. One right here. That's going to be another rock. And let's have one right here. Maybe one right there. I'm just going along, drawing rocks. Peaceful process. There we go. I think that'll do. So what I need to do now, you can see all those rocks, I hope. I hope you were able to see the sketching of them with that gouache. What I need to do now is get a brush that's a lot smaller to get into all these little tiny negative spaces. And I'm going to need to have an even darker color and darker value. So where I already had Jayne's gray, let's zoom out so you can see me mixing. Where I already had Jayne's gray in each of these little wells, I'm putting some more in. This is quite a nice rich burgundy color. I think this will probably be my last application of the background, the negative color, filling in negative spaces. And this was that purple, and I'm adding it into the purple now, into this Jayne's gray in a new well to create a very dark value. There we go. And this was my yellow, so I'm reaching to grab some Jayne's, putting it in my little well, my ceramic dish. There we go. And I already had this color mixed up, so I'm just going to pick it up and put it in. There wasn't tons of it left anyway, but there it is. They probably, from where you're looking, each well probably mostly just looks black. But there is a slight variation in color in each one. All right, this was the blue. There's pretty much none left, so we'll go into the ultra. There we go. And we'll really load up on the Jaynes in here. There we go. Let's even some more. Wow. And for a last touch, since I already used some phthalo, let's do a little phthalo pool. I don't know what's at the bottom of this well because it doesn't seem to, the pigment isn't adhering to the bottom as well as it does in the other ones, but there's some type of rough texture. I wonder if rubber cement ended, and not rubber cement, but drawing gum ended up down there. There we go. Okay, it is the moment. What I'm going to be doing is reaching into each of these colors as I go along, just as I was doing before, but I'll do this on time lapse. All right, I'm going to erase these pencil lines. Now, I did time lapse for a little bit of it, and then I turned the rest on to, I turned the time lapse off because it would have been a long one. I just took my time to go into all these spaces. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into some of these darker rocks that I have, and I'm going to just lift a little bit of the color of the dark values so that we can see a little more of them. Like so. I'll zoom in again. So for instance, I already did that here. I have a rock here and I just put my clean damp brush and I'm kind of just picking up a bit of that color, and that way it'll pop out a little more. And the same in different areas. Kind of make it look like the light is reaching these areas. clean brush, picking up a bit of the pigment and then lifting adds a little bit of a light source down in what appears to be the deeper layer of the rocks. Help them just to pop out some more. And I think I'll just create a rock here by doing the same thing. Using my damp brush, and there's a rock. Damp brush going around and round and round, and paper towel, there's another rock. Filling in some of these dark spaces with little pebbles. I think that's pretty good. There's an area there. And I think I want one right here. Super. Starting to appear a little more realistic because there's not just big pebbles everywhere, with some that are really, really light and some that are really, really dark. There are some mid-tones now. As I lift off a little bit of the color. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little glaze over a portion of some of these top rocks. So the glaze is a pigment with lots of water in it, which I have right here. And I'm just going to run that glaze right along here. And that way, this rock just gets a little bit more shadow to it. And I will do the same. What I'm reaching for is I'm reaching for this previously mixed pigment, which is blue and Payne's gray, and I'm adding more water to it to create what's called a glaze, and then I'll just run that along this one. And that will just create an effect that's a little more dull, and that rock won't be quite so bright. Bring a little more unity into the painting. Right now it's, some of them were so bright and others were so dark. So I'm just, this was pure color. I'm changing that. All right, this is that Quinacridone Rose with Payne's gray. I'm adding extra water in it, and I'll put that right here over this rock, a little glaze. And the same with these ones. This was the purple, adding more water to it, and I'll run that right over here. Lots of water, so I still see what's underneath. It's the purple again. And there we go. I like that. Now I've got my rigger brush. I'm going into some of this darker value, and I'm just going to tap a bit. Just add a few speckles. That was still wet, so it bled out. And I'm going to do the same with the purple value in here. It's the odd speckle. And here. Getting them a little wet. Lift a little. Good. And then I am going into this dark value here, and I'm going to just create a few lines. Good. I like it. I think it makes a very unique Valentine. I could keep playing and playing with it. I could add shadows. If I wanted to add some shadowing, I would just simply, where one rock touched another, create a little shadow in there. But I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to call this complete. I think what I would do along the side here is write a little message with my liner brush, like love, and I think I'll do that right now. Just picking up some of the color I already have. I think I'll add more of that rose in there. There. Love. My husband is actually in the kitchen right now, and little does he know that this is going to be for him. Well, let's lift off the tape and see what we have. First, I need to use my blow dryer and run it along the tape to heat it up. Otherwise, it will rip the paper. That peels off nicely now that I've heated the tape up. After all this work, I wouldn't want to have my card rip. And there we go. I happen to have some gold pigment, and I'm going to put a little bit right here because that's going to be him and me. And so I'm reaching into my gold. It's a powder. And I'm getting my brush wet and I'm grabbing some of that powder. this is my rigger brush. And basically I mix the powder with a bit of water. And what happens is it becomes soluble, a liquid. And then I can have some gold effect. And there we go. I'll just put that right on the edges of these ones. Right there. And right here. And I think inside of it, we'll write something to the effect of, I'm so glad we found each other. Okay, I think I'm officially done. I hope you enjoyed painting with me today, and I hope you create your own rock Valentine. If you do, please show me. Please, you can send me a picture on Instagram at Jasmine Rempel Art, and I will definitely be able to see and have a look at your picture. Of course, I'm adding more detail. I'll be able to see your picture, and I'd love the encouragement. I'm fairly new at doing tutorials, and it's nice to hear from people to know if I should keep doing them. Okay, happy creating, all the best, and bye for now.